Yeah. So,
Well, that expertise is kind of center of the conversation. So,
well, look, before this starts, I am a licensed customs broker. I am kind of a subject matter expert in this stuff. This is your show. I'll keep my mouth shut, but if you want me to jump in, I'm here.
I do. And let me pause there. I'm going to put this up on the live stream link. Hold on.
Oh, huh. I think we have kind of a different crowd today. Um, and Michael, I'm going to have to drop at 12:30.
Okay.
This is recording. Do you want to pause that recording and then
Um,
stop
let's,
it, or you want to just go with it?
it's a stream link, so we have to keep it
Oh,
going.
okay, got it.
All right, as we gather to discuss tariffs. And it's been another 24 hours of craziness.
It has been another 24 hours of crazy. Wouldn't have it any other way,
All right.
apparently.
Well, we've got a good different crowd coming.
I
We've
had a
had a
hard
lot
time
of
getting
people.
on. Sorry, I'm late.
We'll give them a minute to get rolling
No,
here. And Stephen, it's always good to have you here, and that you will be the expert of the moment. Hello, Carrie. Sherman is joining us. Excellent. All right, give it a moment here.
I had a little bit of a difficulty, so maybe some people did as well.
What was the issue?
It sent me to LinkedIn.
There's two things, and I probably should have just done one. There's a LinkedIn that then
Oh,
has
okay.
the link to the Zoom in it, and then there's the Zoom link.
The
So,
regular Zoom.
yeah.
Somehow the regular Zoom, well, whatever. I'm here. Doesn't
All right,
matter.
you're here,
But
and
other people might have, that's all I'm saying is
well,
maybe I had to like register and stuff.
you could see Carrie just whipping that leg up and knocking that door down. Just barge right in, girl.
Wendy's in the dark.
Hey, sorry.
No,
Oh,
okay.
oh,
Did you lose power?
No, no, it's just too hot here. It's 100 degrees in Arizona.
Uh,
oh,
So
Lord.
you do everything you can to keep everything as cool as possible for as long as possible.
and that means keeping
Okay.
the blinds closed.
Yep, and it's like living in a cave.
All right, well, glad you're here. We're going to give a couple minutes because it's a little bit of a different route in today with the Zoom and the LinkedIn.
I'm going to shoot a note to the past attendees with the Zoom link direct. So,
All right. So let's see. Here's today's headline. We all know about this, right? 25%. China raises the tariff. Trump still thinks it's good to go. Here's a little bit of the. Actually, can you see that?
Uh, it just, yeah, now we can.
So this is just kind of an interesting little chart of how things started out with February 10th with 10% on all goods. Then all of a sudden, 20% in March. Then it was 25% in cars and parts. And then boom, 54, 104, and today 145% tariffs.
hmm,
Crazy.
that's crazy.
It is
Sky's the
crazy.
limit.
What?
The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Well,
So
apparently China said that's as high as they're going to go, even if it still does this tit for tat stuff, but it's still outrageous.
you really start, the
Yeah, but
discussion.
remember, all this, everything's in play. So even though China said today that's the size it's going to go, doesn't mean that's the size it's going to go. And the reality is that the anti-trade and tariff rhetoric and the non-tariff trade barriers are probably far more damaging than the actual tariffs, at least in the short term. Probably actually in the long term as well. Numbers are numbers, but if you look back to the last trade war, the number of American producers that lost their Mexican distribution and importers because of the threat of a 20% tariff against Mexico at the start of the last Trump administration is frightening. I know because I was one of them when I had Golden Moon. I
Mm.
lost 20% of my company's revenue to that rhetoric, and those tariffs were never implemented.
Yeah, it's the chilling effect. It's people pulling back just in anticipation. It's things today I've been reading about different industries, but somebody who relies on parts from China, they basically have stopped everything because they don't know what to anticipate until the dust settles.
From what I've read, is almost every industry depends on some part from China one way or another.
Absolutely.
Well, and I'll tell you, we live in a global economy. The economy has been global for a lot more time than I think people realize. I mean, even in the 20th century, I used to run Ford Motor Company's supply chain in Asia. I ran the entire supply chain for Ford in another career once
Mhm.
upon a time. People don't realize that in 1926, Ford Motor Company was manufacturing vehicles in 26 countries and was shipping parts and vehicles around the world. That was 99 years ago.
Mm.
So when people talk about the glory days of being America being an island, no such thing. Further, people tend to forget that the impetus of the founding fathers to declare independence, the final act was a series of what were called revenue or stamp acts on the
Mhm.
part of the King of England against the colonies. Well, what are those? Those are tariffs.
Boston Tea Party was a
Boston Tea Party is what's famous,
yeah.
but there's a little revisionist history there because of the Prohibition movement. In reality, the big hit was not tea. It was a host of other things, most notably wine and spirits coming from Europe. And a number of the founding fathers were actually smuggling wine and spirits into the US. And Thomas Jefferson, as an example, lost a shipload of brandy and port or brandy and sherry. No, I think it was brandy and port.
Mhm.
That the British seized that he was trying to, run the revenue blockade and
Mhm.
not pay tariffs on. And it cost him about $10 million in today's dollars. And that was what pushed him over Thomas Jefferson in particular, over the edge to support, to cry for independence, was he was an alcohol importer.
Hmm.
And it was the tariff issue that caused Thomas Jefferson to say we need to be independent. So this is not a new thing.
No, no. Well, and it's the obviously this is a little unique in that it's the topsy-turvy, one day on, one day off, and there's a bit of a lot of bluster, and it's hard to know what's real and what's not, which is actually one of the things I was reading is that at the borders, they don't have any idea how to manage this right now. They don't have the information, they don't have the systems, and that's going to end up creating log jams, I would
Can
imagine.
I give you another example?
Yeah.
So I'm just finishing this week the valuation of the entire bulk whiskey stocks for a mid-sized Canadian whiskey producer.
Hmm.
And as part of when I do these jobs, as part of what I do is I bring in samples and do a quality analysis so that in the valuation I can attest personally as the independent person that I have conducted due diligence on not only what the stock is, but the quality of the stock. So I have an importer's license. I know how to do all the paperwork. I don't think most of you know this. I am a licensed U.S. Customs broker, have been since 1997. I used to do this for a living. I spent part of my career at Ford Motor Company doing global tariffs and trade work for Ford around the world. Um, and so pre all this trade war, when I would bring in these samples, my TTB COLA waiver and approval for import under my import license was usually approved in 48 to 72 hours. The courier would then ship it. We would do an FDA prior notification because it's a food good. And the combined, even if they wanted to do a detailed inspection, which they always did, would typically take somewhere between 4 and 7 days. I just had a shipment delivered to my office yesterday. It took 8 days, not 48 to 72 hours for TTB to approve the paperwork. Now their standard of service is 15 days, so they're still within their 15. But in the last several years, they've been turning it in less than 3 days.
Mhm.
Then it took 18 days to clear customs. And in the end, everything we had submitted was accurate, correct, and complete. And yet it still took 18 days. And unlike all other prior sample shipments I've ever imported in my entire career, this sample shipment did not undergo a detailed inspection.
Did not.
It did not. And what that indicates to me as somebody that's done this more than most is that both Customs and FDA are totally backed up. They've lost so many personnel that they don't know what they're doing. They've lost a lot of tribal knowledge. And, a sample alcohol shipment is typically an unusual shipment. And my guess is that somebody at either FDA or Customs or both just looked at it and said, I'm overwhelmed. I'm going to deal with the easy stuff first and look at this later.
Mm.
And so I had to bug FedEx and escalate. And I was on the phone almost an hour a day for the last 18 days because I've got a client that needs the valuation. And, I'm looking for where's my whiskey, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it
And
finally came in, and like I said, it cleared without
and
any issues being raised. Now, the other thing that came out yesterday, which is germane to this discussion that is not directly related to tariffs, but sure as hell ties into it, is the U.S. Customs Service released a bulletin, which they do 4 or 5 times a day. But this particular one stated that due to a variety of concerns related to both the tariff issue and the reduction in staffing, that
mhm.
the FDA prior notification and clearance processes were taking longer than usual. So that's a real world experience that literally happened yesterday and over the last 3.5 weeks related to this exact issue.
So we should be prepared for a lot of log jams in the
So what I recommend, and I'm saying this is with my customs broker's hat on, even though I don't clear goods for people, I do customs optimization. Duty and tariff avoidance is part of my service offering now. Um, and I do it for some of the big guys as well as smaller producers. My advice is you need to plan for delays. You need to be hypersensitive that everything is accurate and correct on your documentation. You need to go back and review your harmonized tariff code classification for the goods you're importing. And you need to work with the people that are shipping to you and make sure that the current US HTS code for each line item on that invoice is clearly stated on the invoice with an accurate description of what it is. Because if you don't, and if they don't recognize what they're looking at, they're just going to put it aside and go to the next entry and focus on the easy stuff first.
I'm just reading in a sign that the federal government's technology is struggling to keep up with President Trump's tariffs.
Mhm.
Customs and Border Protection acknowledged that importers had not been able to submit a tariff on certain goods. The glitch appeared to be preventing importers from applying a lower tariff rate on goods that were in transit to the US before some of Trump's tariffs took effect. Customs and Border Protection said it was releasing the goods and allowing importers to submit their customs later.
And that is probably 30 to 50% accurate because I'm hearing from people that goods are stuck in customs and they're not being released or that incorrect tariffs are being assessed and they are holding and demanding payment. So while they're saying that they're releasing goods without payment,
They're not necessarily.
I would say it probably depends on the individual port and even more so the individual customs specialist that's clearing the shipment.
So, Kerry, let's turn to you.
Okay.
You represent Italian wines
Yep.
in the U.S. What is the game plan for your company?
Well, it's been all over the place. And unfortunately, all this is happening during Italy. So it's been difficult to have like
Everybody's
real-time conversations and things are changing on a dime like every day.
that.
But I did come back for from a distributor. I had I met with two states this week, but the direction, well, first of all, I went into these meetings with their plan of action because they're not even giving us really time to come up with our own plan of action. What? Sorry.
Nothing, sorry,
I
that's
don't know who said something. But basically, I was told on Wednesday before I got on the second plane one thing, and then by the time I got off the plane, the tariffs were off. But they were prepared to present to me in the meeting that they were automatically going 20% up to the trade on all of my pricing. That was the corporate direction without even giving us a chance to maybe lower our FOB. There was really they kind of said no discussion, but now that everyone has some breathing room, maybe there will be a discussion. I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen in 90 days or not, but everything just happened so fast. I think everyone went into panic mode and all these people are at Italy. We couldn't even get on calls, meetings, whatever. But I had already had these meetings set up just because of other increases that people wanted to take. So this just dumped on top of it. But that is kind of what everyone that I have talked to has heard from the major players. I mean, some of the smaller houses maybe are doing something different. I don't really know. But that's the word on the street, if you want to put it.
What do you anticipate that does for your overall sales? With a,
Horrible. And I mean, I even listen to some talk shows that I don't necessarily agree. I did an interesting thing last week when this all happened. I put on, this was not in my car, but I came home and I've been pretty upset for a couple of weeks because, some of us are like, are we even going to stay in business? How can we afford this? People are talking about only Pinot Grigio snobs would have to get it from Italy. There's plenty of California options. That's what one of these talk show guys were saying. But so I went on like 3 news affiliates one evening when I came home, and it was just interesting how every affiliate has a different perspective and spin on what is actually going on. So, I mean, I read all of our industry news. I read Shanken. I read Mark Brown. I mean, I read all of it. And that's just what pertains to us in our industry, but there's so many different like twists and turns of like what is really going on. I mean, everybody thought avocados were going to like triple, but apparently avocados are written into the Mexico Canadian, act from however many years ago. So they're supposedly not going up. And I don't care. I'm not in the avocado business. I'm just giving examples. There's just so many things going on out there, but really what they're all saying is I hear the message. They want everyone to buy American. Okay, got it. So then I heard this or read, I don't know if I read it. I didn't hear it for sure because I saw the name on my computer. Now they're trying to make something called Cali Secco because you only have to get Prosecco from Italy. So now someone's going to come out with Cali Secco. That is insanity. Like, so I'm sure someone, I mean, look, there's people in California that are been calling their stuff champagne for years. So, I mean, it's all like, how far is this going to go? I mean, do we have plenty of wines in Washington and Oregon and California? Absolutely. But it's going to definitely affect our business going up price points on the shelf when there's some people who, if you want to call it a luxury, wants their Prosecco, wants their champagne, wants their higher end Pinot Grigio, but there's a lot of people who aren't going to be able to afford that. So they are going to have to make choices and they probably are going to pick lower price points. And those aren't going to be Italian, French, German, Spanish, it's nuts. I don't know how it's all going to play out, but my head's been spinning for at least 10 days now.
Well, I would assume that it also could have some lasting damage to categories.
Yeah.
Because if you get out of the habit of, or you're predisposed to assuming I'm not going to buy French or Italian wine because it's going to be that much more. It's going to be hard for people to
Yeah,
pick it.
people might already just have that in their head before they walk into the store. Huh, not getting anything Italian or French, you know.
Right, which I think is to Stephen's point. There's just a chilling effect, even if it's not imposed yet.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
add one additional comment on that?
yeah.
So your on and off premise retailers tend to make, as do your wholesalers, tend to make a substantial amount of their profit on premium goods, a large portion of which are imports. So your Italian wines, your cognac, your champagne, your Scottish whiskeys, your tequila. If all of these things are harmed coming in, this means that the consumer either has to go to a lower price point
Right.
juice in the US, or they may choose, since they can't get their tipple of choice, to just not drink. And this is going to cause huge problems on the retail tier and the wholesale tier that I don't think anybody's thinking about right now. I mean, I
Mhm.
think hospitality potentially could be decimated because of this. Because while they're getting, people are still going to go out and eat, they're not going to be making the profits they were making from the sale of, say, your Italian wines.
Hmm.
So that is probably the
Yeah,
biggest
my mom likes her white
threat.
Russians. She's in a panic about Kahlua. I'm like, okay, let's just calm down a minute. Like-
Oh,
That's
well,
funny.
let's dig into China for a minute. Really thinking about all the potential impact if this China trade war carries on at these numbers. I mean, you've got so many people in our business that source their glass from China. You've got China having been one of the top, if not India and China, the top export of American whiskey. And yes, there were earlier tariffs, but this kind of knocks it out. I
So
mean,
somebody in this group, I can't remember who it was, gave us a link to an American producing glass company maybe a year or so ago. And I did get an email from another company yesterday. It wasn't the same one, but that doesn't help me for my company. It might for some of the US producers that are getting stuff from Europe, but I'm happy to pass that information on with anyone. But do you recall someone telling us about that on?
yes, I do. I think it was Attila. And but I think the issue was when we were talking about this 2 years ago, it was about shortages because
Yeah,
of
it
supply
was
chain,
COVID.
and it was yeah, and it was let's get it produced here. You don't have to deal with you know logistics of shipping, cargo. But
So
the fact is the prices were much higher,
so
and so
last
that's
year I did an analysis for a British-based investment bank that was looking at investing in infrastructure for glass, specifically alcohol beverage glass here in the US. And I know that they based on my recommendation pulled the trigger on that. And really what drove that decision was both quality and international supply chain interruptions, not a tariff fight. I'm under NDA, so I can't give out their name. Um, but I can tell you that it's a big plant that existed that's growing in Georgia, and the amount of capacity they're putting in is substantial. And they were trying to be able to be cost competitive with the import stuff coming
Mhm.
from overseas. I don't know where they stand with that because I haven't talked to them in about 6 months. And the producer was not my client. The investment bank that was looking at investing in them was. So I'm one step removed. But I can tell you based on that study that there are numerous, uh, at least a dozen glass producers in the US that were adding capacity over the last 24 months,
Huh.
specifically to be able to address some of the supply chain risk prior to all this insanity. The question is whether or not they have capacity and what their cost points are now. But I have a feeling it may not matter. If we're facing a long-term 140% tariff on Chinese glass, then people are going to have to find alternatives. The other thing to keep in mind is that there's been an ongoing anti-dumping investigation by the US government against Chinese, Mexican, and Indian glass. And that the last thing we heard 6 months ago or so was they could not prove that these countries were dumping, and by dumping, I mean selling below market value, glass in the US. But I would be shocked if we do not see a countervailing or anti-dumping tariff on alcohol beverage glass that is separate from all this other insanity within the next 60 to 90 days.
So
Hmm.
I just looked up the email I got. This company is called Frugal Pack, PAC without a K. I don't know if anyone knows
Yeah,
them.
that's the one, that's the paper bottle group. Remember Frugal Pack?
The
That's the
paper
one
bottles with
that
a plastic
Michael,
liner.
yeah, Michael, yeah, that's not glass. That's an alternative to glass.
Yeah.
Well, they just said they were the second largest importer of glass bottles in the world. I mean, I don't.
It might have said that the US was the second largest importer of glass bottles in the world. That's probably what they said in their
Oh,
material. But
okay.
they have a plant in California.
Yeah, they talked about their
That's commissioned
California
now.
plant in
That's up and
Mendocino.
running. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi
Yeah, but
all, and
Fred,
good to see you online, Stephen. Been a while, so good to see you again.
Michael, it's good to see you. So
Good to see you, Michael.
give us the across the pond latest.
Right, so I suppose a sigh of relief for that things have paused, and I hope that some sanity will prevail in the intervening period. That's the first thing. The second thing is I suppose a sigh of relief and a feeling of job well done to an extent that we have convinced the EU to take bourbon off the list, which will mean that which will hopefully mean that we won't have a retaliatory tariff against that. So that's off. So that's one thing. And then there is a concern, however, that casks are still on that list. So casks being imported from the US
To
into
be
the
filled.
EU are still on that list and subject potentially to a 25% tariff. So there's a lot of ex-bourbon casks used in Irish whiskey, other European spirits. So basically the cask brokers and cask importers and stuff are quite active in terms of lobbying in relation to that at the moment. So that's something that is of concern. And I suppose in relation to that, if sales of bourbon go down, you guys are going to be emptying less casks, and that's going to contribute to supply issues, supply constraints on ex-bourbon casks. So we kind of have, I suppose, come out of the supply constraints that have been there. Things have eased off a little bit, but this is just going to ratchet that back up again. So there's a kind of an unhappiness in relation to that, and I hope that will some sanity and sense will prevail on that. The other thing then, and I think I just flagged this in the chat last week. While I was on a train last week and I was in a crowded carriage, so I couldn't go on and talk. But there is a very much a concern in Ireland, on the island of Ireland, that so we are in the Republic. We are part of the EU. North of the border in Ireland, it's part of the UK, and the UK was flagged for 10% tariffs. The EU was flagged for 20% tariffs. So we have spent a lot of time supported by the US over many years in trying to put in place a peace process and stop a lot of kind of smuggling across the border and stuff like that. And then Brexit came in, and they would reopen this discussion about differential trade, different trade conditions on the either side of the border, and the fact of the border in Ireland being a backdoor into the EU for products, right? So, and they've kind of found a solution for that, right? And found a way of kind of getting through that. But this has now reopened that whole discussion, right? And potentially creates instability and political instability. And where you have political instability, on the island of Ireland, you're not too far away from the potential for some head cases on one side or the other to use this as a means for creating violence. Okay, so the guys in the Oval Office mightn't think this, but their actions can actually create geopolitical instability over here.
Hey, Michael, question.
Yeah.
So when I was working in Ireland, we were in discussions with Tara. And
Yeah.
so everybody on the call, Tara is the largest bottling facility in Ireland, and it's just a few kilometers from the Northern Ireland Republic border.
Yeah.
There used to be a problem, and even as recently as 2019, they were still having truckloads of bulk whiskey being hijacked on rare occasion and trucked across the border to be sold as Northern Ireland product, or even worse, taken all the way to Eastern Europe. Are you seeing more of that because of this?
I haven't heard anything like that lately. Not you know, nothing like that lately. I think I think there was some concern during COVID times that anyone who was kind of close to the border potentially needed to bump up their security because there was a likelihood of premises being, with less people on them and potentially a security risk that some opportunistic criminals would use that as an opportunity to steal product and spirit it out of the place while there was less eyes on them. But I haven't heard anything about security issues since that. Um, so, and I would say I don't think I've heard anything about spirit thefts in Ireland of that scale. It would probably have been something that would have happened a lot, back when we had lots of troubles here, but not in more recent times.
Robin, what say you? You got any pearls of wisdom? You've seen a lot of things happen in this business.
Actually, no. I'm actually here just to kind of get some information and just kind of find out what other people are dealing with here. Yeah, I mean, I've got an operation here that may actually involve some exports, and so I've got some tangential, interest in that. But for the most part, my stuff is all domestic. Every one of my clients is going through triple bad time. Mostly because, first of all, we have a generational, drinking habits change. Still have a hangover left over from COVID, and now this, So it's been like a triple whammy here. So yeah, it's a little depressing. I will share something that for those of you who get the New York Times. David Brooks has always been one of these opinion columnists who I love to hate, and I follow him all the time, even though I don't really agree with him. But he wrote something today about how these tariffs are actually the product of about 30 years of dumbing down in education. And I think it's like one of the most revealing things that I've read in a long time. And I would definitely recommend those of you. As a matter of fact, I tell you what I'll do. For those of you who don't get the New York Times, I can actually give the gift away. The article is a gift, and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, here's producing something this stupid is the achievement of a lifetime.
Yeah, no, this is a brilliant article, and it's well thought out. And right there, that paragraph right there that you're looking at. So I'll read it. Test by the Program for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies tells a similar story, only for older folks. Adult numeracy and literacy skills across the globe have been declining Since 2017, tests from the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development show that test scores in adult literacy have been declining over the past decade. The point that he's making is that people are no longer able to grasp the main idea behind an argument. And that our reading abilities, our comprehension abilities are essentially what got us to this point, where so many people have actually just kind of turned over on their backs and allowed this to happen. So it's a really brilliant analysis, and like I said, I will actually copy that, and I'll throw the link into the chat so everyone can read it offline.
Yeah, he says, my biggest worry is that behavioral change is leading to cultural change. As we spend time on our screens, we're abandoning a value that used to be pretty central to our culture. The idea that you should work hard to improve your capacity for wisdom and judgment all the days of your life.
Yeah, it's really quite, it's well argued. It makes an incredible amount of sense to anybody who's following this right now, and especially those of us in this industry. It has it has a lot of impact. So I'm putting the link in.
Yeah,
Right
I just put it in.
Oh, great! Hey, there. Great.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's interesting. More food for thought, or beverages for thought. I don't know. Wendy, perspective from 100 degrees, but no, more importantly, small producer. What are the things that concern you the most?
So wait. Okay, you can hear me. Good.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, now we see you. Wait, now we don't hear you. You're muted.
There we go. We're going to stop producing agave spirits. We're just going to stop because we imported the agave after talking to the importer and then talking to a couple of people in Mexico this week. It's just, we're too tiny. It's going to be too expensive. And we're already, because we can't offer economies of scale. So our pricing would have to go up, and it's already a struggle to educate people about the difference between tequila and an agave spirit. So we're done for right now until things either change or that's it. I mean, until things change. We are working though currently with a company that has imported quite a bulk of tequila specifically, and they're even struggling to get it out to market just because of what's happening in the market that's already been reflected here. So I don't have a whole lot to offer because we're a tiny producer. I mean, we don't distribute outside of Arizona, other than our whiskey, but yeah. Things have slowed down significantly, and they started for us. I would say I thought it was the election year that was a problem. I think now, clearly I was wrong about that. I thought it was just the election. Thought it was just one of those weird, in business all my life, election years were always odd, but that oddness never returned to what I would call normalcy.
Yeah.
So, and just reflecting on the New York Times article, I've worked for a university for 30 years. I continue to teach for them. And I can tell you that's absolutely true. When I work in graduate classes with graduate students, I expect that you have the ability to write a sentence and form an argument. And I haven't seen it since well before COVID. It's just continually getting worse.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very sad because I work, well, it's easy enough to find out who I work with. I mean, I work with Fordham University and NYU. So it's very sad what you see happening around you. I find it very disappointing.
Mm.
Yeah, what's the future going to hold? I mean, this is like they're it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unfortunately, I'm seeing it firsthand, and I've seen it for a bit. It's very, when I get that, those few students that write well, form good arguments, that's when you're excited about it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be an easy grade to grade them because it just makes sense and it's logical and they have a good argument behind it. Even if you don't agree with it, it's not about that. It's about their ability to just form that analytical, argument so that you can have a discussion. Nobody can have the discussion today. No one. Especially in this environment, this political environment, regardless of what side you're on. You can't have a discussion with anyone because they can't support what they think. So I think it's trickling down in too many areas. So yes, you're right. It's concerning to me as well.
Yeah. Whew.
Hey, I'm depressed now. All right.
Sorry.
Me too. Me
Get a
too.
drink. You'll feel better. Get a drink. You'll feel better.
Yeah.
At least Wendy's whiskey is delicious. I had your product a couple of months ago from Square
Yeah.
Barrel. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I got to get a couple of bottles from you.
Oh,
It
of course. No, just send me a quick note. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. Really. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you
You're
so
happy?
much.
Are you happy with the Square? I'm going to buy those Square Barrels. So
Yeah, we
I'm
like the
trying.
square barrels. We use those for our agave product. Our whiskey, we actually use that. We use the Black Swan barrels, but they're just getting so expensive. That's the big problem. It adds a lot of money per bottle to the cost. I love the barrels. I just don't love the cost.
The Square Barrels or just the
Yeah,
regular barrels?
both,
Yeah.
both the Black
Everything is going up.
Swan patented barrels and the square barrels. I like them both. Unfortunately, they're very expensive. So just look at the price per bottle for the costs.
Yeah, I probably just get one or two, because barrels are just the regular barrels. I can't even get barrels. That's become very expensive too
Yes.
from
Yeah.
Adirondack, so everything, is taking time, so
No, I
all
agree.
right.
I agree. Yeah, let me know.
Okay, I
I'm
definitely
happy
will.
to give it to you.
All right. So Vanessa, are you anything changing in your world?
A lot. A lot. I mean, fortunate for me, I do get my bottles here. I'm trying to get, that's what I'm talking to. My glass bottles, I get it from Stoli. I forgot the name of the company. They're in Pennsylvania. So I've been getting my bottles from them, but now they have a shortage. Because I
Now
guess
that you
everybody's
now that you
been,
need them. Yes.
yeah. So I was able to pull a couple of pallets from them. But the thing is, I'm waiting on equipment. That's what I'm doing. I'm waiting on equipment right now from China.
Coming from where?
From China.
Uh,
From Nigeria. So I'm watching.
Is it on the water already?
No. If I send this, my husband was like, just send the money and whatever it is, because it's going to be expensive later. They already got half of it and it's already finished. It's already finished. So
what are you
it's
getting? Is this bottling line or?
no additional stills that
Oh,
I had customized. So that's
One
what I'm
thing you
getting.
can do is reach out to whoever's clearing your goods. You can arrange to have it shipped, and then
Direct.
as a safety measure, have them put into a customs bonded warehouse so that you don't have to pay duty. And then when the duties come down, then you clear them through customs. But that way you at least get them on this side of the water. You may still get bit with the higher tariffs or duties, but at least they're over here now.
Mm.
And then if they do come down, now you're going to have to pay for storage in a bonded warehouse while it's sitting there because
This is equipment.
this is
This is
equipment.
not liquor. It's
You
equipment.
can, so there's something called a customs bonded warehouse. It's different from an alcohol bonded warehouse, but it's the same
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
So it's extraterritorial territory. And what that means is that while it's in the sovereign territory of the United States, it's not within the customs territory of the United States. So you can
Mhm.
bring those goods, whatever they are, into a bonded warehouse, or there's another type of facility called a foreign trade zone. And some of your operators are in foreign trade zones. So either way, you can bring them in, store them, and you can even manipulate them. So
Yeah.
you could assemble, you could test.
But wouldn't
Um,
she, don't you already have a shipping? Like, where's it supposed to land? Western carriers or like, where's it going?
It's coming to my building. It's a still.
yeah, but
It's
what port?
equipment.
What port
It's
of
got
entry?
to, yeah,
It's coming. It's gonna come into New York, New Jersey.
it's
There's a
probably New
ton of foreign
Jersey.
trade zones and a ton of customs bonded warehouses in both New York and New Jersey that you could park them in potentially to avoid tariffs or at least delay payment of tariffs.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, so everybody knows most automotive plants, assembly plants in the world, not just in the US, are foreign trade zones or utilize customs bonded space so
Hmm.
that they can manipulate to pay lower duties and tariffs. The alcohol industry historically has not done so, but I think there's huge opportunities there given the environment we're in.
All right. And I'm gonna have to do that. The other thing is, I was telling them to do. You ever heard of direct DDU, like direct shipment?
DDP.
Was it DDP
So
or
there's
DDU?
DDU and DDP are Incoterms. So those are essentially
Okay.
contractual terms of sale established by the International Chamber of Commerce that are recognized as contractual terms. So DDU is delivered duty unpaid.
Right.
DDP is delivered duty paid. Now, if your
Mm-hmm.
contractual terms are DDP, they're
Mm-hmm.
paying all the freight, taking all the liability and all the duties and tariffs to your plant. So then
Mm-hmm.
you're no longer exposed to risk.
Okay.
So I think there's
So,
24 Incoterms.
so what if it's
Most
DDU or whatever? That's unpaid.
that's unpaid. So DDP would be what you would want if they'll do that.
Okay.
Chances are they won't because so what that does is it means that all cost and liability remains with the shipper until it's actually delivered to you.
Okay.
Until it clears the door at your factory,
Right.
at your facility.
So what's DDU?
DD,
DDU is when it's unpaid,
so DDU means they're paying the freight, but they're not paying the duty.
and but they're delivering it directly to you.
Mhm.
And
The
then when
risk
it's
we have
delivered,
here is the duty, which is tariffs.
right. So if it's delivered to you directly, how do you pay the tariffs?
It's probably
How
built
would I
in
pay
up
the tariffs?
front.
Your broker, you'll
Yeah.
have to pay your broker at the time of import.
Okay.
Are you getting a pedicure?
Who, me? No.
Oh,
I'm at home.
sorry, it kind of looked like it.
So I'm
No,
going to
that's
I
put a
was
just
link.
jealous.
that's just how nice my furniture is. I'm in. Okay. So I gotta figure out what, because I don't want to cancel this order. I gotta get it. You know, it's a money. I gotta get it. So I'm just gonna see. You know what I'm getting is either it's gonna cost me more now or it's gonna cost me more later.
Right.
So that's what I'm dealing with. And every time I put the TV on, I feel like I want to throw up.
You
You
know,
know, because it's the equipment. So this is the last part of the last item I need moving into this building. You know, so that's the issue. Thank you so much, Stephen. That helps me. That helped me out. Are you okay though, Steve? How you been hanging in there?
I'm
Last
hanging
I
in there.
saw you.
Yeah. I'm hanging there. We can talk offline. By the way,
Okay.
I did just misspeak. DDU is delivered duty paid unloaded. So that's in the latest version. They've changed them. So DDU may, because they'll pay for unloading, may actually be the better Incoterm for you. I would take a look at the most recent release is the 2020 Incoterms.
Okay.
And the free guide, as opposed to all the stuff you're going to see that's paid,
Okay.
is from the International Trade Administration.
Okay.
I'm going to put a link to that in the chat so that and everybody when you're moving shipments internationally should understand what these are. and really understand what they mean, because very often people end up paying for the wrong thing.
Right.
If your shipper's going to pay your duty, do it.
Okay.
So let me send this out to everybody.
Yes, please. Because I was looking at, I think I have DDU. I wasn't sure, but I kept telling,
If it's DDU, then you're fine.
oh God. All right, let me send them this money.
Well, no, click on this, read the article,
Okay.
read what DDU means as a contractual term.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's DDU, the tariffs are paid, and they may say they don't want to ship, or they may try and give you a price increase. But if you have a contract and it says DDU,
Yeah, I
you're
do.
covered. So
Yeah, I do.
look at the link I just sent you.
Okay.
Ernesto, welcome.
Let me see the link.
Oh, you're on mute.
Good morning, buenos dias. How is everybody doing?
We're good. We're good. We're just trying to make sense.
Yeah. Well, I think we were safe in the chopping block, just real quick again, because of the free trade agreement. So as of right now, we're okay. We're the same as far as the tariffs go.
So are you seeing any change in demand yet? Because that's what, some are saying that people are just already staying away from things that they perceive are going to be increasing in price, even if the tariffs are delayed.
Yes, we do see some not really a slowdown. It's just not any pickup that we usually get right now in March, April, coming into the warmer
Coming into Cinco de Mayo.
yeah, exactly, coming into that. So there's been no really uptick. Every single stop we do with the retailers and stuff, tariffs come up. And the thing is that I'm sure some of the others here on the panel will be able to know that there are the tariffs on European stuff and stuff from other places. I mean, right now we're safe a little bit because of the free trade agreement, but retailers also say, well, yeah, I'm already having to pay more for, blah 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 for these other things. So they're holding off on really buying stuff from us. Like, okay, I'm short on cash this month, this week, whatever. This, hold it down. So I am seeing a little bit of that. So we are getting some secondhand, I guess you could call it, pushback, even though we have not adjusted any prices at all.
Yeah.
Ernesto, this is Wendy from Wild Hair. I talked to two suppliers out of Mexico just earlier this week, and that's not what they said to me at all. They
What
said
did
there
they
was
tell you?
still a tariff. They still said that there was a tariff on it.
On distilled spirits?
Agave. Yeah, on agave.
There
Agave
is
and
not.
tequila. There is not. So, okay. Thank
No,
you. That's helpful.
I just imported a week ago. Well, it hadn't come in, but I just imported, and my broker's very much on it, and we talked, and they sent out actually an email on this week that as of right now we are not being charged any. There's no tariffs, there's nothing, because it's part of the free trade agreement.
Really?
No, that's what I thought originally too. So I thought we were going to be in the clear, and then the two that I talked to this week said differently. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
That is
Yeah.
interesting because I thought I heard tequila and okay.
What'd you hear?
I thought it was being tariffed.
That it was no. The only thing that's being tariffed right now out of Mexico, the big things, I guess, is aluminum, steel, and automotive. Those are the big ones. Yeah, because that's not in the free trade agreement. So as of today, we are not doing any duties for any of our spirits coming out of Mexico. Our tequila, agave, mezcal, whiskey, nothing.
Kahlua? It was a
Nope.
joke before you got on the phone. I'm sorry, my mom's banging about
Okay, yeah. No, as of right now, that's as of today. As of actually, no, I haven't even checked today. But as of because it's early. It's 9:30 here. But as of today's Friday, as of Wednesday, no tariffs after all.
All right, well, so there's little glimmers there.
Yes.
Anything else anyone wants to throw out to the group for discussion?
I'll just make one little offer to this group. Everyone knows I've closed my distillery. My brands are all mothballed. I've done international trade and customs and tariff work for longer than been a distiller, and I've been a distiller for well over 30 years. I've had kind of multiple careers. I am a licensed U.S. customs broker. I am doing this as part of my consulting services. But having said that, if you guys just need a little advice, I'm happy to hop on a call, talk you through a couple of things. If it starts to take an hours and hours, we'll talk about another relationship. But if you just need someone that can explain something to you, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you, Stephen. And also, you shared a white paper that you published.
So yeah, I published that in both Discus and ADI. I've sent it out. I did a webinar with ADI a couple of weeks ago on this issue as well. We're going to do another session of that will be sponsored by both Discus and ADI here in a couple of weeks. That white paper, Michael, you're welcome to send it on to everybody. Or I can put a link in the chat, whichever's easier.
Can do both.
Once you send it out to everybody, let me put a link in the chat.
Bethany, you got it, right? Yeah.
I do,
And,
yes. Mhm.
like I said, I'm happy to give a little advice, counsel, and wisdom. We're all in this together. If it starts to turn into something that looks like a consulting project, we'll have a different discussion.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just that simple, right?
Yep, fair
So
enough.
so as a customs broker, what are you seeing with distilled spirits out of Mexico?
So I'm not actually clearing goods for people right now.
Oh,
I'm actually consulting on supply chain work. And what I've heard is that the products coming in from Mexico are under threat of being tariffed. Now, there is a free trade agreement that is still in place, but there seems to be a lot of debate in Washington as to whether or not that free trade agreement will be honored under what's going on. And I've had discussions with a variety of people across the industry about this, and no one has a clear answer. I mean, the reality is, I hate to say it bluntly, but I don't know.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It just makes it that much more important. And there's a link to the white papers. That much more important for people to be on top of their documentation and their clearance procedures. Do not assume your broker is 100% on top of things, because most brokers, if it's a small broker you've been working with for years, I would still have a discussion and go through everything again. But if it's a larger broker, it's like Carlisle, for example. Carlisle is a wine and beer company, and they don't know spirits. They ship
Right.
international alcohol all the time, but it's hit and miss as to whether or not the individual broker or importation specialist that's handling your clearance actually knows what they're doing. And so a little communication and a little forward leaning can really save you a lot of pain.
Right. Cool.
The other
Awesome.
thing
Yeah,
I
we're on
mentioned earlier is right now your commercial invoices probably don't have your US harmonized tariff code on each line item.
Mhm.
I would put that harmonized tariff code on your invoices, on your commercial invoices being used to come into the US,
Right.
so that the import specialist, who probably is not an expert on anything at this point, that's the US Customs person,
Yeah.
knows what they're looking at, because they're going to open that book. And if they don't see it in the book, or if there's any ambiguity, if you don't have that tariff code, they're going to have to try and do what's called a classification.
Right.
Do the classification in advance and be proactive about making sure it's really easy for them to find.
Got it.
And then because you're importing into the US, you guys are probably going through the FDA prior notification process, right?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay, double check and make sure that everybody's on board with that, and your FDA codes are correct, and all of that process is very, very well managed. and realized that those processes are now taking substantially longer than they have in the past. Yesterday, Customs put out a bulletin that said that there's a significant delay on FDA prior notice clearances.
Got it.
And that's
Yeah.
because of the layoffs. And then I would set expectations with all your importers that things are going to slow down. I mean, they should know it, but the more you can communicate with your customers across the border, the better off you're going to be, because this is a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it. Appreciate
No
that
worries,
info.
man. Give me a call anytime.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help.
You got it.
All right, well, thank you all very much. This was a great, Stephanie, good idea on your part. But a
Yeah.
great
Thank you.
opportunity to tap the knowledge here in this network, and we'll continue to look for ways to do that. Stephen, thank you. It was good to have you back. And do you want to hang on here, or do you want to?
Me, it's
No, I'll call, we were going to call later.
yeah. Give me a call, will you?
Okay.
And everybody, I didn't disappear because of what happened with my company. I've disappeared because I own horses and we're in a community barn, and Friday mornings are my morning to feed. And so this morning I got up early and fed the horses to jump on this. I've been trying to do that, but I've just been so crazy busy. And I actually find that keep feeding the horses a couple days a week keeps me sane. And so I don't want to not do that to jump on this, but you'll see me more,
All right, that's great.
especially
Okay.
now that it's getting light earlier and I can get to the barn earlier.
There you go. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
All
then
right,
everyone
guys.
have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
guys.
And remember, we
Y'all
do
have a good one. Talk to y'all later.
May 9th, I
Stephen.
believe, is the date.
May-
Bye, everybody. Good luck.
Bye, everyone. May 2nd.
All right.
See
May 2nd?
you guys. Have a
Okay.
great
Okay,
weekend.
see you guys.
Okay, Mike, I'll contact you.
Perfect. Thanks, Vanessa.
All right,
Thanks.
and you too,
See you guys.
Stephen. Talk to you later.
Cheers. Bye
Be
bye.
well.
Thanks,
Anything I can do to help,
everyone.
let me
Have a
know.
great weekend.
Okay.
Bye bye.